The nice weather fell on a Saturday again, and there were even more people in Tamata Park than last time. I'll try not to complain too much about that. I'm spoiled. Even as accessible as this place is, on a weekday, I'll have most trails almost to myself. The bird song won't be the best with so many people around, but there will be other days. Let's go see the Big Redwoods. So, COVID. New Zealand's elimination of COVID has been great for people living here. The Labour government's COVID response got them re-elected in a landslide. Now they're talking about reopening the country, and we're all still waiting to hear a firm, definitive plan. Hospitals are scrambling to get ready, and New Zealanders are trying to figure out just how many fully staffed ICU beds the country actually has, and how much that number has improved since COVID began. Different numbers are coming from different sources. The number that was arrived at by contacting every intensive care unit in New Zealand is 186. I saw an interesting comparison recently. Norway and Denmark are countries with similar populations, and countries that have recently dropped all of their COVID restrictions. Norway has 342 ICU beds per 100,000 people. Denmark has 245 ICU beds per 100,000 people. New Zealand apparently has 186 for a population of 5 million people. It sounds like many ICUs in this country run at near capacity most of the time. ICU beds aren't the only important metric, of course. Hospital beds will be important as well. We know that hospitals are stretched very thin already, with us currently at about 100 new cases a day. It took me quite a while to recognize this area that has been deforested and replanted. Signs say that they've put in 59,000 native plants. I assume that means the forest here before was made up of non-native plants. As I came to recognize what was lost, I felt a bit sad. This was a high, shady area with some great views. I never saw it crowded, which made it a nice spot for a quiet break. I wonder how long it will take for the new plants to become something resembling a forest. I found a video I shot in January of 2020 that shows the huge change. I'll post it separately for anyone who's curious or nostalgic, because this Big Redwoods video looks to be a bit long on its own. I also found a pic of an old map showing the park from above. A fade to a new map shows how much forest was removed. With no trees, I got a clear view that let me understand the lay of the land. I didn't have to go too far off the main trail for this view, and it was definitely worth it. But honestly, I don't see why I would need to come up here again until the new plants have grown considerably. I assume that'll be at least 10 years, if not a lot more. You get a view of the Big Redwoods Grove from above now as you approach. You can't miss how small it is. I guess that's because there are no other trees around to speak of, and nothing blocking the view. I kind of liked the illusion. I liked walking from one forest into another, very different forest. I wonder what it'll be like when the new plants have grown. The loud dog was leaving as I approached. The screaming kids would leave soon after, with a short delay to attend to an injury. Let me just cut to my third take so I can present the Big Redwoods Grove in its characteristic, quiet, peaceful state. This grove of redwoods was planted by the Chambers family in 1927. They weren't the only Hawke's Bay residents to realize that the climate in Hawke's Bay is similar to the coast of California. There are 2 redwood groves in Tamata Park. And there are redwood or sequoia in at least 2 Hastings city parks. At least 2 of these trees, in 2 different parks, bear signs that identify them as Californian big trees. The Californian big trees in this grove are over 40 meters high. That's not tall by California redwood standards, but this is very different from New Zealand's forests. This grove offers a shady, peaceful spot with an atmosphere all its own. The Prime Minister is apparently saying that the lockdown will be lifted when the vaccination rate hits 90%. And I wonder if anyone else has thought to ask whether that's a threat or a promise. There's no reason to believe we'll hit 90% anytime soon. But lockdown is already being dismantled piece by piece. Auckland is at level 3, and case numbers are increasing when they were decreasing at level 4. Kids in years 11 to 13 will return to school on October 26th, with just a few weeks left in the school year. Teachers have until January to be vaccinated. The Prime Minister has said that Auckland residents should be allowed to travel outside of the region for Christmas if vaccinated. But the vaccine passport won't be ready, and it's hard to see a way of letting some Aucklanders travel without effectively extending that to anyone who's willing to break the rules. That might be the surest way yet proposed to spread COVID quickly all over New Zealand. When vaccination hits 90%, New Zealand will transition to a new system that uses the colors green, orange, and red, replacing the current system that uses levels 1 through 4. The good news is that this suggests that there will still be restrictions, although it isn't clear what will trigger a move to orange or red. On the outrage front, we were told that a pair of prostitutes with gang affiliations had traveled from Auckland to Northland, breaking lockdown, and then tested positive for COVID after having visited many shops and other locations. The Prime Minister has since said that there is no evidence that they are prostitutes or that they have gang affiliations. I'm not aware of any such retractions regarding incidents of sex workers leaving Auckland for Wellington and Blenheim. The greatest outrage is still aimed at the unvaccinated. From what I'm hearing, most people want the lockdowns to end, and they're ready to rely exclusively on the vaccine to keep them outside of the disaster that's about to hit the health system. I don't live in Auckland, so I haven't been locked down in a while. But I'm not anxious to trade the situation we've had in New Zealand, that's been the envy of the world, for what I see coming, for what healthcare workers keep telling us is coming. I've imagined what it would be like if the Labour government had said, "We've done well here, but this crisis shows us that we need a revolutionary investment in our health system. We'll roll this out over the next 2 years, starting with immediate pay increases for the nurses, whose wages have stagnated for so long, sending our nurses overseas in droves. But of course, the vast majority of pandemic money worldwide flows into the coffers of large corporations and not into competition with them. Big business has undoubtedly been demanding that New Zealand reopen, but no one is talking about that. Instead, we're about to abandon what's worked so well for us so far, and instead drop loads of infected on a health system that's already breaking. Instead of demanding better, now or in the future, we seem happy to dunk on the same villains that much of the world has been dunking on for years, with no positive effect. The consequences promise to be as deadly as the anti-vaxxer bashing is tired and repetitive and done to death. But the Meth-Biker Covid-Hookers are a pretty original twist. So I guess that might make things a little more interesting. This is where I first realized how much I'd missed the forest that is now gone. The Rangakoko Trail is one of the longer ones, and I've never walked the whole thing in one go. At least twice I've looked up this hill and said, nah, maybe next time. I did come back and walk the last part separately, though, and that's how I know that it used to be really nice up there. This is a cool trail. You're not supposed to bike here, but I got lost on my first ride in this park, and I didn't know another way down. It was pretty gnarly on a bike. Click the card above for that video. My vaccine is hitting full potency right about now. Hawke's Bay is waiting to see if an infected visitor has left any COVID in the region. Here's hoping for the best. We have no details on the occupation of this visitor, who even had permission to travel here. But clearly, we're not getting any Meth-Biker Covid-Hookers to blame it on. But we're trying to remain positive. This smaller redwood grove was planted in 1974 by the Hastings Rotary Club. These lemon-scented eucalyptus are some of the other more epic trees in this park. By the last great viewpoint, I was again hearing the too many people in the car park. The restrooms and picnic area here were built since my first visit. I've seen a lot of improvements to the parks and bike paths around Hawke's Bay over the last 5 years. That includes 2 new trails here in Tamata Park. Maybe I'll try those next time. I hope you find these developments as interesting as I do. I'm looking forward to your comments and questions. Talk to you soon.